6 in the morning, from inside Israeli territory, a group of fighter jets took off, carrying some of the most powerful long-range missiles. Missiles that are only launched when decisions are made that can change the entire region. This was not a training flight, and it was not a show of force. This was a mission planned down to the minute. The reason? Intelligence reports reached both the Central Intelligence Agency and the Mossad, confirming a high-level secret meeting inside a heavily fortified military compound in Tehran.
And among the names, the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. The target was the very top of the hierarchy. Just 2 hours after takeoff, the aircraft reached the execution point. Israeli missiles launched at incredible speed, cutting through the air, and moments later, they struck the military complex with devastating precision. The compound was turned into ruins, a strike that changed the equation. And today, I will walk you through the full story. How was this American-Israeli attack on Iran planned? How were Iran's top leaders targeted with such precision? And what happened after this massive event that shook the region and the world? So without a long introduction, let's begin.
If we want to understand how things reached this point, we have to go back in time, maybe more than a few steps. The relationship between the United States, Israel, and Iran did not suddenly begin. This has been a fire burning under the ashes for decades. Before 1979, Iran was a completely different country. It was ruled by the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, a monarch with an authoritarian system, but also a strong strategic ally of the United States. Washington considered Tehran a cornerstone of its interests in the region. Everything was moving in the same direction. But inside Iran, the streets were boiling. In 1979, the revolution exploded, and the man who emerged at the center of it all was a religious leader named Ruhollah Khomeini.
And Khomeini declared the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran, a new state with a completely different identity that later became the largest political and religious center for Shia Muslims in the world. From the very first day, the message was clear. Khomeini declared hostility toward the West. At the top of the list was the United States, and immediately after that, Israel. Israel, in particular, became a constant target in his speeches, and he openly promoted the idea that its existence was completely unacceptable. In 1989, Khomeini died, and power passed to a man who would continue the same path, Ali Khamenei. As the years passed, the tension did not fade. It only became more complicated.
Iran became involved in regional conflicts. It was accused of funding armed militias and of fighting proxy wars inside several Arab countries. American sanctions began to intensify. The goal was clear: to weaken and contain Iranian influence. But the story did not stop there. In 2002, something alarming was revealed. Iran had begun working on uranium enrichment inside 2 secret facilities. That was the moment when alarm bells started ringing. The United States and Israel believed the red line was getting closer. Iran denied that it was trying to develop a nuclear weapon and insisted that its program was only for peaceful purposes. But the suspicion was stronger than the statements. A new kind of war began.
Cyber attacks targeted nuclear facilities. Assassinations struck Iranian scientists and intelligence operatives. A shadow war with no official announcements, but everyone understood what was happening. At one point, Washington chose a different path: diplomacy. In 2015, the American President Barack Obama signed a nuclear agreement with Iran. The deal allowed Tehran to develop nuclear energy for peaceful use only, in exchange for strict inspections and a complete ban on possessing a nuclear weapon. For a short time, it seemed like the tension had decreased, but the calm did not last. In 2018, the American President Donald Trump announced that the United States would withdraw from the agreement. He described it as the worst deal America had ever made. From that moment, the escalation returned stronger than before. Sanctions doubled, the rhetoric intensified, and the region entered a new phase of open tension. All of these developments were setting the stage for what came next, because the conflict was not only about influence.
It had become a struggle over existence. In 2025, the region was standing on the edge of an explosion. During a new round of negotiations between the United States and Iran, many expected a de-escalation or at least a temporary freeze in tensions. But what happened was the opposite of what anyone expected. Israel decided to act. Not a political statement, not a warning. A series of direct airstrikes inside Iran using bunker-busting missiles. The result? 3 Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed. The message was clear. Any progress in the nuclear program would be met with force. But the military strikes were not the only major event that year. Iran's economy was already under heavy pressure from sanctions. And in the same year, 2025, the economic deficit reached an unprecedented level. The Iranian currency collapsed. Prices exploded. Basic food became a dream for many families.
The middle class almost disappeared, and the Iranian people began to lose their patience. Everyone was chanting against government decisions that they said had destroyed the future of young people and pushed the country toward a complete economic collapse. The most dangerous slogan was repeated with one voice: "Down with the rule of Ali Khamenei." At the same time, from Washington, the American president Donald Trump stepped into the situation. He posted direct messages aimed at the Iranian people. He called on them to rise up, and he told them clearly that help was coming. Those words were enough to push the regime's nerves even further. But instead of reducing the escalation, the Iranian government chose confrontation. Direct orders were given to security forces: arrest the protesters.
Even the internet was cut off across the entire country. The goal was clear: prevent the spread of videos showing the executions and killings that were being recorded on the streets. The outcome was shocking. More than 30,000 protesters were killed, and around 50,000 Iranian citizens were arrested. Blood in the streets, and the tension quickly became international. The United States increased its military presence in the region: aircraft carriers, prepared military bases, and open rules of engagement. Trump's threats against the Iranian government became public and repeated. Then came Thursday, February 26th. It was the last diplomatic meeting meant to solve the crisis before any military move. The doors closed. The negotiations began, but they ended without any positive result. And only 2 days later, February 28th, 2026, 9:40 in the morning, Tehran, the capital of Iran. Inside a massive government complex that included offices for the Iranian presidency, the Iranian National Security Council, and a private office for the supreme leader, American intelligence was watching everything. Through detailed tracking, the United States was able to determine how Khamenei was transported, the timing of his meetings, the methods used to protect him, and the details of his daily movements. According to reports, the Central Intelligence Agency tracked Khamenei's movements for many months. His behavior was analyzed, his reactions during moments of escalation, his public appearance patterns, and even the smallest changes in his security routine. On the morning of February 28, his presence inside the government building was confirmed. He was holding a meeting with senior Iranian officials. The original plan was a night attack.
A surprise strike under the cover of darkness. But at the last moment, the meeting time was changed. A small detail that could have changed everything. But the new schedule reached American intelligence, and that is when the real countdown began. The clock was moving, and everything suddenly started happening faster than expected. The building was struck while the meeting was still in progress. The missiles hit their target. The entire government complex shook. But minutes after the strike, the Central Intelligence Agency was informed that Ali Khamenei was not inside the same office where the meeting was taking place. That information alone was enough to delay any announcement of his death, because in an operation like this, mistakes are not acceptable, and an announcement of that magnitude has to be 100% confirmed.
Then 1 hour and 20 minutes after the strike, the final confirmation arrived. American intelligence confirmed the death of Ali Khamenei, along with the chief of staff of the Iranian military, the head of national defense, the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the Iranian Minister of Defense. The strike was not about targeting one man, it was the removal of an entire leadership structure. According to Mossad reports, more than 30 Iranian officials were eliminated within 30 seconds of the strike, an operation that had been planned for more than 6 months.
But despite all of this,
The Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, survived by a miracle, along with Ali Larijani, the secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, who later issued a fiery statement promising a powerful and earth-shaking response that could shake the entire Middle East. But the strike on the government complex was only the beginning. Within a short time, Israel launched a second wave of airstrikes. The objective was clear: destroy Iran's entire air defense system, especially around Tehran. Radar systems were knocked out, missile platforms were destroyed, and the Iranian sky suddenly became exposed. Then came the third phase. More than 200 Israeli military aircraft entered the airspace, a massive operation aimed at destroying Iranian military bases as quickly as possible. Air bases, weapons depots, command centers, all of them under fire. And only 30 minutes later,
the United States officially entered the operation. Iran was divided into two military zones, one part targeted by the United States and another handled by Israel. But it did not stop there. The United States targeted the entire Iranian naval fleet. Then the American president Donald Trump appeared in a direct address. He announced the success of the operation and confirmed that the Iranian leadership was gone. He called on the Iranian people to finish what remained of the regime and to take control of their country.
Shortly after, the Israeli Prime Minister delivered a similar speech, almost the same message, the same call. But the story did not end with the first strikes. Soon after, reports spread about an airstrike that had hit a school. Iranian media quickly claimed the missiles were American and that a civilian location had been targeted. The situation was extremely sensitive, but reports from the ground revealed a different detail. The school was located next to a military base, and the real target was the base itself. The Ministry of Defense announced a formal investigation into the strike, because any mistake at a moment like this could ignite public opinion even further. But the Iranian response did not take long. Iran announced the launch of a new operation called True Promise 4.
And the surprise! The retaliatory strikes were not aimed only at military bases. They were aimed at Arab cities. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Manama, cities that had been far from the front line, suddenly found themselves under Iranian missiles. After that, more than 200 missiles were launched toward Israeli territory, an unprecedented escalation. As the conflict expanded, the Houthi movement announced that it would target all ships in the Red Sea. That announcement effectively meant the end of the de-escalation agreement that had lasted only 3 months. The situation was expanding rapidly. Reports indicated that the United States intercepted more than 200 drones that were heading towards cities in Iraq, Syria, and Jordan, but some still made it through. Iran managed to strike Erbil International Airport. And less than 20 minutes later, Dubai International Airport was targeted. The strikes even reached tourist areas such as Burj Al Arab and Palm Jumeirah. In Bahrain, the headquarters of the United States Fifth Fleet was targeted, as well as a civilian residential complex. Syria was also hit by missile attacks, which led to the deaths of 4 civilians. After that, the Arab League issued a statement condemning the attacks against Arab countries, and NATO countries announced that they were raising the readiness of their air defense systems.
In Turkey, military readiness was also raised, with intelligence warnings that Iran might attempt to activate sleeper cells in Europe and the United States. News was pouring in at an insane speed, events on the scale of a small world war, and it was difficult to cover everything in a single video. But let us step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture. The American President Donald Trump said that his goal was to eliminate the threat that Iran posed to American interests. But at the same time, many reports suggested that Iran was still far from actually possessing a nuclear weapon, and that it did not have missiles capable of striking the United States itself. That raises an important question. Was the real reason for the attack the nuclear threat? Or did the weakness Iran suffered under economic sanctions create a golden opportunity to end its regional influence and turn it into a marginal state? From that perspective, the war looks more like a preventive action.
not a necessary war, but legal. Preventive wars are considered illegal under American law, and they may represent a violation of the Constitution, especially since Trump began the military operation without approval from the United States Congress. As the war continued, global oil prices rose, markets were shaken, and warnings began to appear about a possible energy crisis if the Strait of Hormuz were closed. Inside Iran, some people took to the streets celebrating the end of Khamenei's rule. Transitional government has declared that it is determined to seek revenge and continue the war, and the region is heading towards even greater escalation in the coming days. The question now is not who fired first. The real question is, who will be able to stop this fire before it becomes something bigger than everyone involved?